Just do it. Think differently. Impossible is nothing. You probably know just with these 3 or 4 words which brand I'm talking about. And what all of these brands have in common, they have a very strong brand identity. Hello everyone, it's Rafael from Beazy, and today we're gonna talk how you can develop a video marketing strategy for your business that works and brings results. Okay, I think there is no question that video is very important and is a hot topic these days. Even the head of Instagram himself told that Instagram is no longer a photo sharing app. And now they're gonna put more resources on improving the video features because this is where the consumer market is going. People are consuming media more and more in a video format. So if you don't have video as an integral part of your marketing strategy, I'm sorry to tell you, you're probably a bit late to the party already. And don't worry, there is still time to catch up. And if you don't know anything, if you never shot a video before, that might be a bit overwhelming. What type of video do you want to make, or what exactly, how the video will look like? And this is when strategy comes. You really need a strategy to make sure that you're not producing videos that won't work, and making sure also that the ones that you do produce bring the results you want. And don't be fooled, the strategy is not something that you just sit, do, and it's gonna be set in stone. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You have to go through a kind of a feedback loop or a cycle where you wanna plan the videos, produce them, then promote across all the platforms, measure if they're bringing the results, analyze what's working, what's not, and then go back to the first phase and start planning the changes, producing the new videos, and on and on and on. So it's a cycle. You're gonna have many interactions until you go and you get to a sweet spot that you get the videos working. Okay, let's start with the planning. This is arguably the most important part and probably the one you're gonna spend the most time at. So, first thing you need for the planning is to know the goals of your video. So each video we're gonna have a different goal, and it depends a lot on what stage of the marketing funnel you're at. You have different kinds of conversions or metrics to measure if you are in awareness phase, if you are in the consideration or in the light, depending on how you're gonna interact with the audience. So basically for brand awareness, maybe you wanna track some landing page views. If you go more in the consideration, you get quotes. And again, this will depend a lot on the type of business and the industry, but you should have different goals for different stages of the marketing funnel. And you're basically gonna measure if the video is bringing those conversions. So before you even start thinking about what kind of video to do or what is gonna be the content of the video, you should first thing set what is the goal. Because if you don't have a goal, you can't measure if it's working or not, and you basically will never know if the money you spend on creating the videos, producing the videos, are bringing something back to your business or not. And that doesn't mean just money. Maybe you're just going for awareness. So maybe like the landing page views, for example, if you see that there are more people coming to the landing page just because of your video, then the video is working. It's not a monetary, but you need to know what to measure. Each different stage of the market funnel will probably ask for different types of videos. For example, consideration phase, it's probably a good idea to shoot some testimonial videos because you're getting basically social proof that your product solved their problem. And they're not hearing from you straight, but they're hearing from other customers that are satisfied with the product or service you have. Well, after sales, you can still do it with a thank you video. Maybe after you finish, you just have a video embedded on your confirmation. I don't know if it's a sale or a consultation or anything. When you confirm that they are in business with you, you can also send a video thanking them for choosing you instead of the competition, and you start building relationship with your customer. So yeah, as you can see, there are many different types of videos that will fit different stages of the marketing funnel, and different videos will require like different metrics to track. And these metrics are the goals of your video. And again, depending on the industry, depending on the type of service or product you offer, this is all gonna change. But the first thing you should figure out is what you expect out of the video and how this can help your business bottom line. After having your goals defined, the second thing you should do is get to know your audience. Basically, is having a buyer persona for each kind of video. The buyer's persona is an educated guess of who is your ideal customer. Probably after you start gathering some data, you will see that your guesses were either right or wrong, and then you can come back and like polish or redefine your buyer persona based not only on the guesses or hunches you had, but also in the data that you've been collecting if you've been doing this for some time already. For example, so you guys can understand better, for us here at Beazy, we do content production service. So we basically find photographers, location, and everything you need to produce a video, for example, like this one. So you just come up with the idea and we do the rest. And one of our buyers personas, for example, is a marketing manager of a small business that don't have the team itself, and they don't want to spend that much time looking for a freelance filmmaker. So we go and we brainstorm about like, oh, what is the position, like market manager, and how old are they, and what is their education, if they have kids or not, and try to get like as close as possible to this picture or this profile of who would need our services and why. And most important, you should learn also their pain points or the problems they're facing, because you will really sell when you can portray your product or service as a solution to their specific problem. And see, I'm saying it's specific. If you try to do a video that tries to speak to everyone and just talks about the features of your product, nobody will care. They will care if your product is solving a problem they have. And you only know the problem if you know the person. So that's why knowing your audience is so important. So if you're familiar with storytelling, you know more or less how a hero journey goes. If you don't know anything about storytelling, well, I can go in depth in another video, but I'll try to summarize the concept of the hero journey really quickly. So basically, in any story or most stories, you have a protagonist, which is the hero, and he's in the beginning facing a problem, and then he finds someone that like guides them to a possible solution. So basically in the beginning, you have like a very sad and negative person, and then something happens, it changes, it goes through this process of changing what is not working in their life, and in the end, it's a way more optimistic person with more like positive vibes. So this is the character transformation, and usually you always have a guide. For example, in Star Wars, for example, the protagonist is Luke Skywalker, but the guide is Yoda. Yoda is the guy who is showing how he can overcome that problem. And here is very important. The hero of your story is not your brand, it's not your business, it's your buyer persona or is your customer. You should be the guy. So don't try to be Luke Skywalker, be Yoda. By now you have your goals and you figure out the story. And by the way, you have different stories for different people. So each buyer persona has a different problem. So you should have one story for each. You don't have one hero, you have many heroes. In the same way you have different heroes, you need different types of video to connect with different people. So part of the planning is figuring out what types of video work better for each stage of the funnel. Because in the end, the goal is that the videos bring the conversions. So if you have the conversion, you just measure and you test out different videos until you get the type of video that works for you. Okay, so now we talked about setting your goals, knowing your audience, telling a story, and knowing which kind of videos will work for different personas. One last thing I want to cover here in the planning phase is building a brand identity. And basically that means that people will recognize your videos as soon as they're out and say like, okay, this is our X business video, you know. They don't even need to get to the end and see the logo or anything. Just by knowing how you do your videos, they already know it's yours. And how you can do that is basically having a consistent kind of communication and behavior across all platforms. If you don't get this consistency, people will never know what to expect from your brand. And on the other hand, if you have a strong brand identity, people will know that is your brand with an without a logo or anything. Okay, so that is all we're gonna cover in this video about the planning phase. And by now you have a way better idea of how the videos are gonna look like before you start producing the video, which is exactly the next step on the feedback loop. The first thing you should think about when you start the production phase of the whole feedback loop is who is gonna produce the videos and bring your ideas that you had in the planning phase to life. Basically here you have three options. You can produce them yourself, the more DIY kind of option, or you can outsource either to a production company or a freelance filmmaker. And the good thing about this day and age in social media, you can actually get influencers or content creators that do creating videos for a living and they just need to talk about your product. But this is very tricky because you need to find the right influencers because your brand is gonna be connected to them. So if you have an influencer that doesn't go well with your target audience, could backfire a little bit. So this last one, I would go back to the planning phase and plan very well which kind of influencers do you want. Coming back to the other two options, let's talk first the do-yourself, produce yourself your own videos. This can be like different for different kinds of budgets. If you are like a bigger company, an enterprise, and you have the budget to hire a video team, by any means do it because this is gonna be the best and most effective option in the long run. But if you are a small enterprise, small business, and you barely have the budget to keep going, you can basically try to do it yourself with your phone. You know, you can even with your phone, if you put it on a tripod and you have a story well defined, talking to a specific persona, and they can relate to the story you're telling. It's not about how good, well-produced your video is. So you can have Hollywood quality video. If you don't tell a good enough story and people don't relate to the story, they won't buy, they won't do business with you. Because what matters is that they can relate to the story and they feel that your product or service is gonna solve their problem. After you decided who is gonna produce your video, one little thing that you might oversee that is very important is know what communication channels you wanna promote it. And this, why we have this in the production part and not in the promotion part, because if you shoot your video in a format that it's not the one that you're gonna use in the promotion, you're probably gonna have way more work. So what I mean by that is like today you have different social media and different communication channels such as email, LinkedIn, newsletter, or there is many different ads, for example, and each different use case require a different, for example, aspect ratio of your video. So right now we're shooting for YouTube, we're shooting 16:9. But if I'm gonna do content for maybe TikTok or Reels or Stories, I need 9 by 16. So I wouldn't be shooting in a horizontal position, landscape, but I would do vertical video because this is already the aspect ratio that they need. So this is very important, and this actually, I would say, go back not only to the production, but in the planning phase, because if you plan to use this video in a specific communication channel, you need to shoot it different. So it's a bit of like a play. You can also use your content, the same content in different platforms, but keep in mind the different aspect ratios you need for each communication channel. Another thing to keep in mind while producing the video is the structure of the video itself. And this is relatable to the telling a story part we already talked about. So the hero's journey, if you think about it, is a very well structured story. And you want to have the same thing in your video. You want to tell a story, but not any story, in a very well structured way that is going to be easier to follow and with a clear path or clear transformation from your hero from the beginning to the end. So if you talk about different stuff in like different places, you might confuse your audience. And if you get them confused, they will just click off and they will not watch the video. And you basically will lose your audience attention. So to keep them interested, it's very important to have a clear structure, which also brings us to the last point, which is to include a CTA in your video. This is also part of the structure and is usually the last thing you should do in your video. If you're thinking about the goals, you want in the end of the video that the audience does something. For example, right now we are creating these videos to educate you, and what we want you to do is basically like, subscribe, maybe read our blog, maybe sign up with the newsletter, whatever it is that you want the people or your audience to do. After they watch the video, you should tell them what to do. You should call them to action. Because even though you might think like, oh, people already know what's the next step, they will not follow to the next step to the process if you don't call them to action. So very important, insert a CTA in the end of your videos. Okay, so now you already planned and you produced the video, and it's time to put it out there for the world to see. It's time to promote it. And sometimes you're like, okay, I should just post the same video across all platforms, all social media, and get as many people to see as possible. Well, while that can be helpful and can increase a bit of brand awareness, you have to be careful with sharing videos that don't fit a certain platform. For example, like on LinkedIn, people might be expecting more business-related content. And if you just have a content that is completely just for entertainment and humorous, maybe LinkedIn is not the best place to do it. Maybe this kind of content would suit better Instagram Reels or TikTok or even Stories. This will depend a lot on the audience you have from your business, where they are consuming which kind of content, and what they expect from that platform. And it's important to note here that the same consumer, when they are looking on LinkedIn and on Instagram, they expect different types of content. Even though the target audience is the same, they consume different types of content across different platforms. So again, going back to the planning phase, you have to know your audience and know what type of content they consume in each platform, so you can have a better decision on where to promote it. So right now we are shooting this, 5, 7, 10 minute video. I'm not sure how long it's gonna be, but it's a long format video. If we wanna share on Facebook, people are used to shorter format and they're not gonna watch 10 minutes video on Instagram. So what we can do is from this big piece of content, let's call it the pillar content, which is the YouTube video, you can create sub pieces of content. So you derivate pieces of content for different platforms from this pillar one, the YouTube video. So we create a 1 minute concise video on Instagram. We get some quotes and highlights and share it on Twitter. We can get the audio transcript and transform it into a podcast. And in this way, from one large piece of content, you can derivate and create 5, 10, 20 other pieces of content. So that means that you don't need to create one video for specifically each platform. Create a big one with the most information and then repurpose the content from there. Now we're moving to the last part of the whole feedback loop from the video marketing strategy, which is measure and analyze. So it's very important that you know what metrics to measure and analyze if the video you created is bringing the results you expect or not. Without proper tracking and without proper analysis, you never know if the video is working or not. And you never know if the money you're investing in them is gonna be worth it in the long run or not. So basically here, what you wanna do is to align the video with the goals and see if the video is bringing conversions or if it's increasing conversions in a certain part of the funnel. If it's not bringing it up, probably you should test something. And this is the last thing, and this is one very important thing. You must test different video types, video strategies, and even like the way you communicate. Of course, keeping it inside your brand identity, but maybe you're using too much humor or too little humor or any kind of specifically characteristic of the video. So maybe if you think that's like we here, for example, we do jokes a lot in the videos. Maybe down the line we see that it's not really helping and we try to just keep the jokes out in the next iteration. If you see that taking the jokes off increased the conversion rate you're expecting, you should just take it away. Or if you see it decrease, you know that people like the jokes on the videos. But you never know if it's gonna be working or not if you don't measure, you analyze and you test it. Because if you measure, you analyze and you don't take action, you're gonna stagnate in your conversion rate or your any land paging views or whatever is your goal. So it's very important. Don't be afraid to test. When you finish, you measure and you see if there was an increase or not. And both if there was or not, you should change something in your video. And if your video is working, don't be afraid to test it as well, because you never know how is the winning format. Maybe you're getting a really good conversion rate and you say, okay, this is a sweet spot, we're not gonna do anything more. But if you add a new test and it increases, you can like get more money with the same amount of work. That's basically why you're doing marketing in the first place, to get viewers and transform them into customers. And the more viewers you can convert into customers, the better. And doing that is going through this whole interaction of this feedback loop. You're gonna plan, you're gonna produce the video, you're gonna promote it, you're gonna get the results from this whole video, and then you're gonna analyze, learn, test new stuff, and you go over and over again. That brings us to the end of the whole video marketing strategy. So that will be it for today. I hope you really like the content. If you did find it helpful, please leave it a like. It will help us out with the algorithm. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for being notified of future uploads. And let us know in the comments, do you guys already have a video marketing strategy in place? If not, what do you think is the hardest part of getting it right? And please, if you have any questions about the whole strategy and the whole video marketing, feel free to ask. We're gonna try to answer as many questions as possible in the comments. And yeah, that will be it for today. My name is Rafael from Beazy, and I see you guys in the next one.